Hola, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos a este lanzamiento de Solstice, del Solstice Pod de Mersive. Interesante todo lo que vamos a ver ahora en este lanzamiento, porque en un solo equipo que funcionaba originalmente para proyectar de manera inalámbrica, completamente touchless, le han integrado la parte de videoconferencia, compatible con los principales proveedores de videoconferencia en la nube, como lo es Zoom, Teams, Webex. Todos ellos se podrán desplegar y podrán iniciar la videoconferencia desde el Solstice. Pero bueno, no les adelanto más, estamos ya a punto de empezar, justamente a las 2 de la tarde comienza este lanzamiento y creo que es un equipo que será parteaguas con el regreso a la nueva normalidad. Sobre todo porque pues será difícil estar manteniendo equipos que sean touch por cuestiones de sanidad. Y bueno, pues hay una fuerte tendencia a la parte touchless. Y Solstice, el Solstice generación 3, el Pod generación 3, resuelve perfectamente la parte touchless. Entonces, pues bueno, pues bienvenidos. En unos minutos más comenzaremos. Estaremos pasando algo de información aquí en la transmisión. Y pues muchas gracias por conectarse. Bienvenidos.
Hey, welcome to the live stream of the Solstice Conference launch event. I'm Christopher Janes, CTO and founder of Immersive, and I'm going to announce the product, but also take you through why it matters. And we're going to, in fact, use the product to dial in a special guest and discuss some of the implications of what we're about to launch, what's coming to, a conference room near you. So we started this whole company and built the product of Solstice on the idea that when you come together with your colleagues, software should be able to make that experience more engaging and more collaborative by allowing you to just share content from any device quickly and easily onto a screen. Well, what does this launch matter? What's happening here? Well, we're going to take that collaborative engagement experience and we're going to extend it to the remote use case. So remember, Solstice in the past was really all about how do I come into a room and seamlessly share content with my colleagues and be productive, and maybe even manage that experience with what is basically an intelligent room platform called the Solstice Pod. What it can now do is act as a new class of room system that sits in the room. So what I've got here is the Solstice Pod. It's plugged into a display, sits on your corporate network, and manages your meeting culture as people come and go. But now what it also can do is take a audio and video room system, and it plugs directly into the back of the USB ports of that device, and it will, through what we call bring your own meeting, allow you to wander into a space and start a video call. So here we've got a Logitech Meetup. It's got its own pan tilt. It's a high resolution camera, great audio system. And for me, that's really what you need to have a sort of a minimal set of experience when I come in and I want to have a remote call, video call. We'll show you that. So when I say that, what I really mean is what's called bring your own meeting. So as a user comes into the space, I've always believed that users are more engaged with their own devices, their own ecosystem of technology, than they are with infrastructural components that they have to run into throughout the day. So what we mean by bring your own meeting is I bring my own laptop, like this guy here. I bring my own tools and applications that are on it. I bring my own content, right? I might have content in the cloud. It might be sitting here. And I even have my own personal calendar. The room system should be aware of all those things and embrace them and allow them to be shared to the screen, allow the room system to be seen at this device and then shared out. So in fact, what we do is a complete wireless bridge from this device to the room system to support video conferencing. Okay, so before I jump into actually using Solstice Conference to dial in one of our guests, I want to talk about why this really matters and what the problems we really were focused on. So years ago, we brought in our customer council and they challenged us to solve 3 really important problems. 1, every time you build a video conferencing room, you're sort of forced to pick a vendor. Now that doesn't sound bad because maybe all my users use Zoom or all my users use WebEx, but the reality is some percentage of the time you're going to have an outside reason to have a call with Blue Jeans or what it might be. So why do you have to pick that? It's expensive, it's risky, you don't want to do that. We have a system now that is completely agnostic to the software running here that I'm going to control. So regardless of if I'm running Zoom, WebEx, GoToMeeting, Blue Jeans, even Slack, when I walk into the space, I do the same thing every time, and it auto bridges all the wireless to those systems and allows me to share that collaborative experience out to my remote users. The other thing is we were challenged with solving is this complexity problem, that when I find a launch pad in a conference room, it may be different than the conference room down the hall, and I'm now having to relearn a user experience. We solved that by introducing what we call a one-step start. So no matter what, when I come into a room, like I'm going to show you, when I have a Zoom meeting on my calendar, or I have a WebEx meeting on my calendar, I type the code I see on the screen, it auto bridges the room system, and in fact joins me to that meeting without me having to do anything. Now in this world of what we're calling contactless collaboration, that means all I had to do is contact my own devices to start the entire room system up. Pretty big deal. Finally, and this is maybe subtle, but it's very important, video conferencing was really built with presentation in mind. The one-to-many user experience was the focus. Solstice has always been focused on that collaboration, free engagement, egalitarian type of meeting. We want to bring that now on equal footing. So when I'm meeting proximately with my users, I want my remote participants to be able to see all that content. If I have 4 or 5 things on the screen and I share that out to my remote participants, they should be able to see it and participate in that meeting just as though they were here, which of course is super important given the hybrid world we're entering into in that return to work era. So let me go ahead and bring in our special guest, who's the Director of Alliance and Go-to-Market at Logitech. So I'm going to do that by launching through my wireless device. Just type the 4-digit code. And we're going to bring in Gino. Hey, Gino, thanks for joining the live stream.
Thanks, Chris, for having me. Thanks for having me to your event. This is great.
Yeah, it's been a long haul. I'm pretty excited.
Me too. This is going to be a good time for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've already done quite a bit of back and forth with the R&D just to get some of this stuff married up together. I mean, one of the highlights I think of Solstice Conference as a product is that we really wanted to make sure that the Logitech device and the host laptop, we pass everything back to that laptop transparently, so that there's this continuity between the USB experiences if you plugged it in the device versus when you're doing wireless bridging with Solstice Conference. Your teams were a big part of that and helping us get there. It was not easy. It's a lot of tech development.
No, I agree for sure. And that continuity, that plug and play kind of concept is something that's been at our roots since we started making conference room cameras, as well as, of course, webcams, headsets, all this stuff. But making sure that the software, right, that recognizes those devices performs properly, right? And that's key. And we do a lot of work on our back end for all those conferencing providers that drive the video experience. There's ubiquity, if you will, but also this kind of whitelisting concept that it's going to work, right? And so by you preserving that, it's just wonderful.
Yeah, I still remember the call we had where you guys said that's going to be really important. Let's make sure that happens. And I'm really glad we had that call, because it's not just the technology and all the sort of the registration that happens between the video codec and the device, but it's also a user experience issue. If I come to a room, I see that it's a really nice Logitech device. I should be able to find Logitech in my Zoom call or in my Teams call and pick that and auto bridge it, normally, without having to rethink, wait a minute, this is some other device because it happens to be Solstice Conference. So I'm glad we went down that path.
Yeah, for sure. And we've seen that a lot, right, with your webcam, right? When I'm saying, is it my laptop camera that I'm going to be using, or is it my webcam? There's just really no difference in selecting the Logitech camera that's in that conference room. And we, of course, label a lot of our conference cams, so it's the conference cam.
Yeah, obviously it makes sense. So we wouldn't want to get in the way of all that good thinking that went into product design, for sure. It's funny, we're launching this, I have to bring it up, we're launching this product right in the middle of probably the biggest disruption of the workplace since maybe, computers arrived, you could argue. So this pandemic is going to have some real impact here. Are you guys starting to think about things differently? Are you having to, explore how the workplace is going to impact, your own product line? I know cameras are flying off the shelves because everyone's building up home offices, but are you seeing other trends?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, of course, with the conference cam lineup, right, the small, medium, and large spaces, the meetup that you're looking at me on, of course, addresses those spaces. But when we look at what's been happening at home, right, there's been a big push, of course, to use video. And I think all of our organizations that we work for are adopting this kind of video-first culture. I mean, if anything, the industry's fast-forwarded at least 10 years, right? Now the adoption is there. People need it. We're seeing it in education, right, healthcare, of course. And then as we go back to work, we want to preserve everything we just learned, right, because we're all becoming video users. And so it's a tremendous time in the industry in general to use video as an ultimate tool that you have to use if you want to preserve culture, your workflows, right? And I expect that same kind of behavior when I come back to the office.
Oh, that's a really, really good point. And I like the way you worded that, the fast forward 10 years in the future, because if you read my blog or listen to my podcast, you know that when I think about technology and disruption happens, that's when you do accelerate innovation, because the need suddenly becomes super clear. So for me, that idea that I come from my home office where I'm working, and then now sometimes I need to walk into a conference room and I want that same experience. Now I think it's going to be pretty interesting. In fact, even on this call, when I launched off this laptop, we had a meeting on my personal calendar that was called Gino, right? You noticed that I didn't have to do anything. As soon as I typed those codes, you were on the screen and Zoom launched, because it was a Zoom meeting that we set up together, right? If it was WebEx or Teams, same thing would have happened. But I'm sort of now guardrailed by the thing I've become used to, become good at using. I really like that idea. It's really important. You know, and the R&D continues. I'm sure you're aware. We're going to be looking at, you guys have a great people counter. We have an occupancy thing that's built in when we launch this right into the camera so we can count the number of people in rooms. We're looking at how we could, you know, notify people through our own cloud service when, you know, corporate policies don't align with how many people are in that space for the wellness reasons, right? And then we're working together with you guys to even support like sync so that we can drive firmware updates to your cameras. So the relationship, to be honest with you guys, couldn't be better. Kudos to Logitech for helping us through this. It's not easy to be innovative, especially in a time of disruption like this, but I really think the world needed a solution that was, you know, one touch start, no vendor lock, walk in a room and it's pure wireless. It's this whole like contactless collaboration system that just works with any Logitech device like we just showed. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, we are too. This is going to be an interesting time. I think that they get back to the hybrid conversation about going back. You know, it's going to take a while for all of us to get back to the meeting spaces. But, you know, I think between our two organizations, the fact that, you know, now at least collaboration is possible in public spaces or in groups where maybe we limit the amount of folks that are in a room. You know, I want to use the tool. I want to sit across from you and actually call someone on the other end while you and I can collaborate. And then even out of call, being able to share content properly like we've all been doing before we had to leave the office. So we're excited, Chris, for sure.
Yeah, Gino, that's a good point. Equal footing for users that are sharing a lot of content in a room together should be able to be experienced by people that happen to be at home that day because maybe they're doing alternate days in and out, things like that. That's awesome, Gino. Thanks a lot. It's good that you were able to join. I'm glad we're finally here. It's been a long haul, but it's a great launch event. Thanks a lot for all your support.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Take care.
See you, Gino. Okay, cool. Thanks so much for joining the Solstice live stream. The Solstice conference is now available. If you have a Gen 3 pod deployment, go ahead and go to download the software. You can see it in your Solstice Cloud account, push it to your devices, plug in your audio video system, and you're off. You can also just go to immersive.com to learn a whole lot more about the Solstice conference product. And thanks again for joining.